It's been a hot minute, but I finally got on my ass and edited another PUBG Top 10 Pro Tips video. And I've really sat down and thought this one through. So hopefully, regardless of your skill level, you'll be able to take something away from this video and improve your game in PUBG. So let's get stuck straight into it. In no particular order, tip number 10 is about the effective use of the D-pad for medical supplies. In my opinion, down on the D-pad should only be used for first aid kits. If you cycle through medical items using the D-pad, PUBG will remember what item you last used and equip that next time you try to heal using the D-pad. You can see this here when I try to heal and an adrenaline syringe pops up. In situations when you take lots of damage outside of the zone or need to get a first aid off quickly in close quarter combat, you can't afford the extra time it takes to cycle through your meds to find a first aid. You can also see here how quickly I'm able to cycle through the other medical supplies via my invent by pressing the menu button, then right bumper, then right trigger, or down on the D-pad a few times. This is a much better option to leave the first aid kit as the primary medical supply that is equipped when you press down on the D-pad. Understand how frag grenades work. Once you pull the pin on a frag grenade, it takes 5 seconds to explode. If you throw a frag grenade without cooking it, it will also take 5 seconds to explode after it leaves your hand. Using this knowledge to your advantage, you can reach awkward angles and catch your enemies off guard. This is a great example where I can't seem to connect on any of these frag throws, so I decide to improvise and cook the frag the perfect amount so it will explode on top of my enemy's cover. In my last tips video, I copped a bit of shit for saying that frags are overpowered at the moment. So instead of saying that, all I'll say is frags are overpowered. Tip number 8 is about jumping to hear nearby movement. I've mentioned this tip before, but jumping when you anticipate nearby enemies is a very useful tactic. By jumping occasionally, you remove the sound of your character's footsteps, so you can narrow your hearing on your enemy's movements. This is especially useful when you can't see over nearby terrain and are wanting to clear the area around you. Always take care applying this strategy jumping downhill, as you will spend a little bit longer airborne and risk having your character do the landing animation, which takes a bit of time and makes you an easy target. Tip number 7 refers to frag grenades again, and it's got to do with anticipating your enemy's frags. Always anticipate your enemies using frag grenades. A decent player in PUBG will understand how overpowered frag grenades are. Anytime you're in a standoff with an opponent, always consider whether you're in fragging distance, and if you are, be sure to regularly move between cover when this is an option. I find that pushing out of buildings to fight often works much better for me than trying to bunker down in houses and avoid my enemy's grenades. Tip number 6 is about effective and efficient looting. Use left trigger and right trigger, or R2 and L2 on PS4 to skip down 5 items when looting. This is an essential skill that will take your PUBG game to the next level. Also, by using RB and LB, or R1 and L1 on PS4, you can cycle between columns quickly. Using this tip effectively will minimize your chance of being caught off guard while looting, and allow you to quickly loot essential items even when you're under fire. Tip number 5, don't always drop hot, especially if you get frustrated easily. If you drop at the most highly contested areas, which is where a lot of experienced and confident players drop, be sure to expect that you will die more often than not. Also, keep in mind that a lot of streamers will often drop in hot areas to try and make the gameplay as exciting as possible for their viewers. A lot of my high kill games in PUBG on console start out at places like Gatka. I love Gatka. Shooting range, power grid, this random compound near Villa, this seaside shanty town on the west of ruins. So pretty much just drop wherever you enjoy to drop. Don't feel obliged to drop hot. You do you, baby! Tip number 4 is about time management. Utilize your mental timer and understand healing times. It takes 4 seconds to bandage, 6 seconds to first aid, 8 seconds to medkit, 6 seconds to painkiller, and 4 seconds to energy drink. Why is this important to know? Because it gives you crucial information for when to tactically push your enemies. In this example here, I tagged this guy up pretty good with a QBZ, and chances are that he fluffed around for a second before getting a med off. Using my mental timer, I understand that I can probably reach him before he'd get the chance to get off a medkit and completely regenerate his health. So given that I have full health, I'm at an advantage if I can push him. Keep in mind that if an enemy peeks you or uses a throwable while you're pushing them in this situation, you can pretty much reset that mental timer because you know they haven't had a chance to heal yet. Tip number 3 is pretty straightforward, but it's got to do with third-partying gunfights. If you're trying to get lots of kills, then make sure you always third-party gunfights and shoot the player who you think is losing that fight first. This is a great way to rack up quick kills if you can be somewhat accurate with your spray. If you're not overly confident with being able to make these shots consistently, then it may be a better idea to wait until the winner of that gunfight goes to loot his opponent before you open fire.
I like that laugh.
On the flip side, tip number 2 is about making sure that you shield yourself from potential third-party opponents. You can see in this example here, before I open fire on this guy running on the outside of zone, I make sure I get to a point where I'm shielded from my left by this rock, because that's the center of zone where more players are likely to be. And finally, tip number 1 is about using sidestepping and stopping on a dime to avoid enemy fire. This is a great way to avoid the brunt of your enemy's bullets, especially when fighting multiple opponents.
Oh my god.
dear.
Oh my god.
Jesus Christ.
Check out this example from one of my streams the other day.
Yep, that's what I thought. It's got my AK too. Damn.
You son of a...
You know what? That was an awesome example of how important it is to stop on a dime and shoot at people. Because, do you see how hard that was to hit that guy?
If you enjoyed the video or found it useful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and drop me a comment to let me know what you think. Also, keep an eye out on my Twitter page and YouTube, because in less than 24 hours, we're kicking off the fundraising stream to raise some money and awareness for men's health and mental health. This is a great cause, so if you guys are able to, I'd really appreciate you stopping by the stream. Whether you want to donate or not, that's fine, but just having that support would be really awesome. There's more details in the description. But anyway guys, take it easy, and I'll catch you soon.